Of course, got to stick the microphone in if you want to record a video. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back, my friends. So today's video, I want to talk about Shang Tsung. I saw an article on Event Hubs which discussed Shang Tsung's Soul Steel ability. And if you know me, I am waiting for Shang Tsung. I really like that guy. He was my main in Mortal Kombat 9. And I like old men in general in fighting games. Like Goku was an old man, and Shang Tsung is kind of an old man. He's definitely got an old man skin. And I love it. And the fact that he's modelled after Tagawa is just the icing on the cake. It's really good. So I want to discuss my thoughts on some of the aspects regarding Shang Tsung's soul stealing aspect. I do want to pose a question though, that an answer that I haven't really got an answer for. So it's like, because he's modelled after Tagawa, a real person, how do NetherRealms, how are they going to get around the whole aspect of ripping his face off and cutting him in half and shoot him in the face and popping an eye out and stuff because he's modelled after a real person? Now, I know they do facial scans for other characters, but I don't think they're actually modelled on anybody. Now, I think the Shang Tsung, the old one we saw, is not too much like Tagawa, but if we get a young variation, it may very well look very similar. So I don't know what you feel about that, whether they're just going to let that ride and it's okay, sign a contract that says it's okay to rip my face off, or whether they're going to like change him into a different version that's not Tagawa before he gets fatalityed or something. I don't know, it's just an interesting thing I thought of. But the article that I really want to discuss is about his soul stealing aspect. So he's had different ways of soul stealing. In Mortal Kombat 9 was the one that I played mainly, and he could basically do a particular move which turned you into the opponent. So you could get to play the opponent's character for a short period of time, and you got a damage boost. So conceptual wise, I loved it. It was like I could play your character but more damage. You know, and also the aspect of the more characters you can play in the roster, the better you are with Shang Tsung. So he's like the ultimate jack of all trades. Learn the entire game and you will be a god with Shang Tsung. Conceptually, it was great. In practice, it kind of fell down because you have to actually get into that move first, and also no one really played all the characters that you could possibly meet. So it kind of, and you only got a limited amount of time, so you had to really go in. But concept wise, I loved it. But there are some other things. Now, in previous iterations, you could turn into any character, I think. You'd do a certain input, a certain move, and you turn into Johnny Cage, for example, and you just played as Johnny Cage until you did an input to get out of it, I think. And you could go to Sub-Zero and you could go to Scorpion. Now, back in those days, it was possible, but the article brought up an issue with today's technical limitations on that. If you wanted to turn into every character, then you'd have to load all the characters up at the start of the match. If you're playing Shang Tsung, all characters have to be loaded so you can switch into them, which would increase loading times. Might not even be possible with the amount of RAM or something, I don't know. Because if you didn't load them, then you get a big freeze while it loaded it during the game, which is obviously not what you want. So there are some technical limitations to doing that now, which is a shame because some people want it. Now, I've had a large think about what you could do with Soul Steal, and I really hope it's in for Shang Tsung. But the way I see it, there's probably about 3 different ways you could do this, apart from obviously loading it all in if they manage to get past that technical limitation. The first one is just do what they did in Mortal Kombat 9, where you only turn into your opponent, and maybe you could do a move to turn out of it. So they could sort of mix it together. Instead of a move that you turn into it for a short period of time, you just turn into it whenever you want and then turn out of it whenever you want. Maybe. I think the damage boost was really nice though, but that wouldn't be applicable if you could turn into it at the start of the match and then don't ever turn out of it, you know. But the other thing they could do, if they wanted more characters, I think in Mortal Kombat 1, he basically turned into different characters for different moves, I think. So it kind of reminds me of Seth for Street Fighter 4. You could basically, he's got the best moves of everyone. So Shang Tsung could have a variation where he can turn into Sub-Zero and do an ice move. One move from Sub-Zero, one move from Scorpion, one move from Cabal, one move from Jade, one move from, Garrus and stuff like that. So he could just take a move from loads of different people, and that'd just be part of his actual move set in certain variations, possibly. There's a lot of moves to choose from. It might make him overpowered. The way they got around this with Seth was he had a lower health pool because he had more options and more the powerful moves. Now, it might not work particularly well because him keeps switching in and out, might be quite long-winded, it might be quite iffy if you're doing a lot of these moves, but it's something that you could do if you wanted to. I think personally a lot of people would like him to stay as Shang Tsung, though, rather than to be obviously just turn into a character and do a lot of the moves, so he hasn't got really any of his own moves, so he doesn't feel like he's got an identity there. Seth, for example, still looked like himself, and he had a bit of a quirk when he did Sonic moves. He did them differently to Guile, and when he did a flash kick, he did them differently to Guile. He didn't do a flash kick. Lightning legs from Chun-Li, he did them differently. So he had his own flair on the moves. I don't think Shang Tsung turned into them would have that effect. The other way that I think you could do it would be the custom variation. I don't know how many slots, but you can have it so one particular slot held Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Cabal, and you could equip that, and then you've got 3 moves there, so you'd have to load a couple more characters with the loading screen, but not all of them. And then you could have one slot which had Geras, Kano, and Scorpion, and you'd equip that one, And so there's different slots that you could do in your custom variation, which allows you to tailor which character you'd like to turn into. These are just some aspects, some ideas that I had. I like the idea that when Shang Tsung comes out, there's a lot to explore on him, and I can't wait for it. I really just wanted to talk through those ideas regarding Shang Tsung's soul stealing ability. Now, also, Mortal Kombat 9, I've actually got it right here, in fact, because I was playing it before Mortal Kombat 11. Because this is my favourite one, I think, because it had Shang Tsung in it. But there are some issues with Shang Tsung in this that I hope they rectify, and I'm pretty confident they will. I think his X-Ray in this was pretty lousy. He just sort of put his hand on them and sucked their soul and then kneed them. Wasn't too interesting, and his fatalities were a bit bland too. He just went into them, ripped the head off, or just I can't remember what the other one was, but they weren't that creative anyway. And also, another issue with Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat 9 that I found was his variety of special moves. Now, I feel like they will improve this, but in Mortal Kombat 9, he basically had the Soul Steal. He had up fireballs, which was a godlike move. He had straightforward fireballs, and he had fireballs that he throws into the air that come down later. So really, that was it. That's all his special moves. Up fireball, down fireball, forward fireball, Soul Steal. Pretty lousy. But I'm pretty sure they will improve that in Mortal Kombat 11, because he's going to have a lot of moves. And with custom variations, you can probably get rid of some of those fireballs for some other things. So I just wanted to talk about that. If you've got any opinions on what you'd like to see with Shang Tsung, I'm definitely going to play him when the game comes out. I don't know who I'm going to main before that, though. I enjoyed the stress test with Cabal and Jade. But we'll have to see. I mean, Noob Saibot looked pretty good, and there are some other characters which I think look really nice. But thanks for watching. Take care. Tell me what you think, and I'll see you again next time. Stay tuned for more Mortal Kombat 11 content, guys. Take care.